Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? A little bit of tweaking and stuff this morning. I ended up upgrading OBS, which is the thing that's running the stream. You know, they always say don't do that before a stream, and I definitely gave myself enough time, so we're good. But it took a lot longer than I was expecting it to. But that's how it goes. So today we I think are going to look at some Tauri stuff. I forgot to change the which way are we? Message. There we go. Forgot to update that. We have been doing a lot of React 3 Fiber over the past, I don't know, 10 streams or so. And we had snuck in a couple Tauri streams here and there, and we had done some prior. But it's been a while, and I think we've pretty much hit the end of what I want to do with React 3 Fiber at the moment. And we have some kind of cool integrations, so feel free to use some of those channel points. We hooked our models up with React 3 Fiber. There were models that we did in Blender. We hooked them up with React 3 Fiber and our channel point redemptions, and they drop into a React 3 Fiber scene and react through a physics engine called Rapier. So that's fun. I think we pretty much hit the end of what I was all trying to accomplish there. So we'll probably come back to it off and on just to check in, see where things are at, and do little integrations and play around with anything new that comes out. But it's time to switch topics a little bit. So I want to get some Tauri in. I've been out of the Tauri game a little bit, at least the day to day. So there's been some new updates and releases. I'll probably bring them up as we go here. But I've never done a sidecar. A sidecar is within Tauri, we are bundling the web app. The web app that you create, and then a Rust backend. But the backend isn't run as like a separate localhost type of binary. It's that's all bundled together, and that whole thing is executed. But you have the option to include a like standalone binary as part of it. So I think it would be fun to give that a shot. I've got a potential use case or two for other work unrelated to what we're going to do on the stream. So I think I have ideas to use it. But I think on the stream, we're just going to try to keep it simple and pull in a binary that does something very small. I think I have a binary floating around in my downloads folder that will just echo out hello world. So we'll try to get that bundled in and wired up and see what happens. Cool. Let's pop over. I've got a folder called Tauri Playground, and as you can see, this is actually from there you go, 3 months ago. That's probably the last time that we did Tauri stuff. We played around with the windows, the windowing, and the decorations. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and commit this up. Just add it to it. Windows vibrancy plugin. Yes, do the whole thing. And this repo is it's not really a modern repo, but it's, I guess I can't type while I'm talking here. It's not really a mono repo, but I'm suspecting it's not a mono repo in a sense that it has all of these dependencies linked together, and there's like a top level or a root package type files, cargo.toml or package.json. So it's not that type of mono repo. But I'm probably going to end up doing a bunch of different projects in here just so I don't have a massive list of repositories that if people want to check out the things that we've done on stream with Tauri. So we've got right now the tray app that we did 7 months ago now, and I think that was the last time we worked on it. So there was other iterations prior to that. So, like we said, it's due time. Hey Ryan. Yes. It's a little bit chilly here today. It is a little bit chilly. Um, it's like been 40 to 60 degrees or so. 55 this morning. Oof. Yeah, like I get below 70, I notice it. So I've I I haven't gone to turn on the heat yet. I probably need to make sure I can swap my furnace over. But I definitely noticed that I was a couple degrees cooler, and I'm like, we'll just throw a sweater on. You tired of the heat? I like the heat. I do enjoy autumn and all the things that come from fall, though. Especially around here, we've got a lot of deciduous trees in Wisconsin. So the fall season gets real pretty. And I definitely enjoy Halloween. For those that aren't aware, I've got a couple small kids and a bunch of nieces and nephews, and it's a fun time for them. A lot of activities and dress up for Halloween festivities. But okay, so Tauri, let's we've got a new 1.10 came out. I haven't actually used it yet, and we do have a new Create Tauri app. And I think we can probably do a bash thing. This is a very... I kind of appreciate that. That's as succinct as you can get it. We're gonna do it in this folder because this Create Tauri app should create another folder within here, which is what I'm looking for. Yeah. So you might notice I am using new shell, which is not specifically bash, but it's kind of bash-like. There is some different syntax though. And the sh is not available. So guess we could probably... I think bash would work. There's also a PowerShell, but I'm pretty sure bash should work. So we're gonna give that a try and see what happens. And really, I suspect maybe the curl pipe is gonna work for us better here. Okay, all right. And it is I mean, this is an sh script, so we might not be able to do this either. Yeah. Okay. A little bit annoying, but we can work around it. We're gonna go ahead and run it with PowerShell. My PowerShell is not quite as nicely set up or pretty looking, but it is what it is. So let's call it, we're gonna say Tauri Sidecar. Choose my package manager. I am going to use npm, and we'll do Preact. I'm not gonna bother with TS because this is more of a prototyping thing, and in my opinion, the value of TypeScript is the maintainability that it provides. But having to deal with the types does slow things down a little bit. So, that's sort of the trade-off. But I don't really need the maintainability. This is more of a spike. So we're going to go with Preact, partly because I am familiar. So now we should have Tauri Sidecar. And And we can npm install run Tauri dev. So I see you're doing a stream later today, Ryan. I should be able to catch the it's right at the end of my day before I get into all the family stuff. So I should be able to actually catch it. You're doing a bunch of rips, is that the term? Open. I'm not up with the things as far as opening things on stream is. npm run Tauri dev. So I do have an alias that npm run, nr is short for npm run. Some exclusive products, nice. Live breaks, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, so we ran Tauri dev. Tauri will run your web server. In this case, we have Vite hooked up. Rip and ship equals live break. That makes sense. So a rip and ship would be you open a bunch of things on stream and somebody has already like pre-purchased a packet. And the reason to do this would be kind of entertainment, but also you can buy boxes of things, I'm assuming, and it's a crowdsourced way to split up a box, I'm assuming, right? So the sales happen before or after? Or is this like a... Are you opening it and then immediately just like selling it for whatever? Are you selling it for like the pack of the cards? They happen before or during the stream? Okay, interesting. This is new to me. Okay, so we got the Vite server going. It's still running. We can go to localhost 1420. I feel like it's a different URL. So it runs our Tauri app, or it runs the web app that Tauri will end up bundling. So we can go to it separately, other than it just being in the desktop app. But in parallel to that, it's doing the Rust stuff, and the Rust acts kind of like our backend for the desktop app. The first build is definitely going to take longer. And through, I think it still uses Salsa RS, is the incremental compiler in Rust. And that will, once it compiles, especially all of the dependencies that are basically not going to change as you're working on it, or at least not off enough that you're going to see this happening. The follow-on compiles are effectively just your app, so they go much, much quicker. We definitely got a fair amount in here, though. That's for sure. You can see we've got a few of the Tauri dependencies, macros, notifications for Windows. Tau and Rai are the lower level libraries that Windows, or that Tauri has created and uses. And it is using the Windows crate, so there's a newer... There was some like unofficial implementations of Windows utility crates, but now Microsoft has put out their own, and that's starting to become the go-to, I think. We're almost there. We could take a look at a code while we're waiting to bundle. We do need to figure out the whole sidecar thing, so I'm guessing that only works in the app. So the the Rust does do a number on my computer. I've got OBS set to have a higher priority, so we shouldn't skip any frames. But you might see lag in other places. So like just me moving around in here and clicking, it takes a while to do some of these things because of that. Okay, yeah. So we do need to run this within the actual app because it's expecting on the window object the IPC, which is the communication layer between the Rust backend and the front end that you would use. So wait for that. While it's going though, let's look at our. Is there a guide? I don't remember if there's a guide or not. These docs are always nice to have. I feel like getting things shipped as far as desktop and or apps in general go on multiple platforms is pretty involved. So we might end up coming back to those. Multi-window Tauri plugins. We'll probably end up doing a couple more streams of just going through some of these plugins. We've got. Oh, we don't have a list. I thought we would have a list. It's got to be on our awesome Tauri repo. We're almost there. Handful left. Yeah, plugins. So there's a few that are listed here. Oh, somebody did a Sentry one. Nice. I'm definitely curious about that one. If this was the one that we played around with last time, window vibrancy, which does the blur, the different types of blur is probably the easiest to say it on Windows only. And then a couple like authenticators store type things. So like these might be interesting to play around with. I think for my own use cases, the things that I'm interested in doing with Tauri are more local, like advancements on top of a CLI that you'd use locally. And an interface with SQLite is probably the easiest to get that going locally. Okay, let's stay in task. We need to find sidecars. Binary file contents. I thought we had a doc or a guide for it, but it seems we might not. So we do have some file system operation things that we can do. Generally, it is recommended with Tauri to, similar to the web and whatnot, only enable the APIs that you tend to use just to reduce your potential security footprint. So there's a, what is that, type alias. So we can copy, read, remove, and write a binary file. So these are all file system operations within using the Tauri JavaScript package. You can write code in Rust, and that can kind of act like, hey, there it is, finally. That can act like your backend, but it's not really a backend per se. And there's a JavaScript package for your front end to allow your front end to communicate with the backend. And there's a couple ways that you can use it. You can opt into having it on the window object within your front end, but then there's also a package that you can import, which it's that one. Be kind of nice to have a link or something there. So that's what this FS was pointing to. I don't think this is where we want to go though. I think we probably want to be looking at the configuration. We might need to play around with things a little bit. So with the app itself, in dev mode, you still have dev tools. So this, being that I'm on Windows, is using Edge. There's an Edge web view. So we can open up the inspector, and I still have the dev tools that I'm mostly used to. I've definitely used the Chrome ones more, so Edge is going to be slightly different, but it's not the end of the world. Can I zoom in on that maybe? No, bummer. Okay. I'm assuming these just go to docs. Yeah, I'd open it on the side in my default browser, which isn't particularly helpful, but so this is, I'm assuming, communicating to the backend. If we look at app, where's our code for this? So this is just doing, oh, of course, I'm looking on the wrong one. I was very confused there for a minute. Yeah, this is more what I would expect. So we've got our input here. We have an onChange event, set name, which is calling a state. And then greet, set greet. So when you click the onChange event is just doing the input, attaching a local state component to the input. So when we hit the greet button, we are invoking the onClick function, which uses the name that you have set via that state. So that invoke is then pulled from the API, which we had just looked at previously. That invoke then is wired up to the backend, where we have the main.rs, and we can create custom functions, and those take the response coming from the front end, and then we can do Rust things with them. So this effectively ends up opening up pretty much the whole Rust ecosystem ish. So anything that you can do in Rust, you can then end up invoking from your front end JavaScript effectively. So you could do something like create an image using one of is it Rust image rs, I think is the Rust image create. So you can click a button and create an image. And a benefit of doing some of this in Rust is you get lower level access to your environment, but also, oh hey, forgot I installed that. You get lower level access to the operating system that you're running in via Rust, and you get all the memory safety that comes from Rust. And Rust is rather performant, so you can do things in JavaScript and have JavaScript handle the view layer, and have Rust handle the heavy lifting things. Of course, if you don't have any heavy lifting, your Rust backend could be more of just a thing to help package your web app up, and it ends up being more of a wrapper. So depending on what you're doing, there's value to having more or less Rust, especially depending on how well you know Rust. But once we create a command, then we register it as part of the builder. I kind of want to see, is this working? So that flowistry is supposed to like highlight parts of the code, or maybe the highlight's not the best way to say it. It makes parts of the code it dims parts of the code that you're not concerned about. I mean, I don't really have any like functions and stuff that's carrying through, so it's probably a little bit less applicable here. Okay, so we want to, I'm assuming we look at our config, and where would that be? So we got JavaScript, Rust. I gotta imagine that's gonna be in the config, because we need the config to be aware of this bundle. I gotta imagine that's probably it. We need Tauri to be aware that we want it to include a bundle, and that bundle for Tauri bundler. No, I don't think that's it. We want it to be aware of this binary, so that when it creates our app, it includes it as part of it. Here we go. Okay, external bin. Okay, so it's gonna deal with the system-specific extensions. So if we call it binary, it's gonna do the target triple with the system extension. Target triple is basically the computer architecture. So here, x86, 64-bit PC, Windows, x86, 64-bit Apple device. Apple Darwin. Darwin is their, is that code name? Code name for Mac OS. And then same for Linux. And you can see Linux and Mac don't have the extension, whereas Windows does. So that's sort of the value of having the system extension come in as well. So we should be able to, I think I've got a binary that we were just playing around with earlier that I can use. I'm gonna just go ahead and copy it. I think I've got it in my downloads maybe. No, I don't. I got it. And this does have the target triple in there already, which is good. We'll toss it into our sidecar here. Okay. So I've been playing around with binaries this week along with coworkers. And we're working on a library called GraphGen. Dealing with code signing and all this. This is actually a binary that comes from a Dino library. Well, Dino-ish. It's basically a hello world. So this is the test to make sure that a very small, like low implementation of Dino will work through the whole process. Kind of get a very small piece to work and then put it through the process and confirm it works, and then you can kind of keep building on top of that. So our in debugging and trying to get to work, our first test was actually a C library. So we just output a C binary that would echo out hello world. So here, I'll bump up that's probably a little bit small there. So it's got the target triple in there already. So I don't think we need to do any of this. And we just need to add in the bundle config. The external bin. There is a Tauri config file here. We've got a bundle config. Is there an external bin? Yes. So I think we can just do this. I think that is effectively going to be our implementation here. Do we have... I think that's... I was curious if... I think we've got a Tauri VS Code package. I don't know that I've actually installed it or not. That's kind of nice. This is more what I care about, the JSON validation here. I think that's going to give us is that actually going to validate? I might need to reload. So it does have, yeah. So it has some explanations if we hover over it. Yeah, okay. So we're getting some of those docs built within. I'm not seeing the validation happen though, but that's not a big deal. For what I care about right now, obviously we want it to work. So we got our binary here. We've got an app. It should bundle it up. Now the question is, how do we test to make sure that it's working? So what we could do is we already have this invoke wired up. It's invoking the greet function. The greet function is coming from the main, and it's sending back some text. We could, using a command, invoke this binary. That's probably going to be the easiest test. Invoke the binary, see that it's working, and get a response. So like a potential use case would be you might be able to do a GraphQL server written directly in Rust. But if there's situations where you want to, if you have a GraphQL server written in JavaScript and you want to be able to test or use it locally, being able to create a binary of that server and have it stand up as part of an app where you can like toggle stuff on and off say if you've got 4 servers, you could check a box and say, hey, turn this one off, and play around with it locally like that. I think that's something that is a potential interesting use case here. Obviously, you need to get it in a binary, so that's something to be said for that. That is for certain. So it doesn't really say any external bin. Embedding external binaries. So I guess the search didn't. I was searching for binary. The guide is external binaries. Do we really not use the word binary in here at all? Yeah, we call this binary. It's interesting that it's not showing up in the search. Okay, so it's fine. It's something that we can make a note of and we can fix. So we bundle binaries of your choice. We figured out that we need to add a string to the external bin with absolute or relative paths. So I think what we'll do is, oh, it does VS Code stuff too. Oh, okay, nice. I guess we do a bin folder. I'm not certain if it is that absolute or relative path. Is this happening from the root? That's something that's not clear. And we do need to, as part of the allow list, add this to the scope. So we're opting in to having that specific file and that at this file path be notated as a sidecar and something that's not that's like invoked separately. So that's sort of a security thing. We don't want the user through the app to be able to like escape to the file system and have admin privileges. So this is part of that. And it is a shell thing. So we potentially have access to do, yeah. Okay, I don't really need that. I've got a binary ready. So we'll just try it. Oh, I just did external bin. Nice. I'm gonna assume it's from the root. So we're gonna say /bin/ I can't tell if it was actually helping me out or not there. /bin. Doesn't seem like it is. And I think all of it is the target triple except for GraphGen. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that that's the case here. That we need to. And it's interesting that we have to also replicate it here. Need that water break. Okay. And while I'm slightly distracted, feel free to try those channel point commands. Spent a handful of weeks playing around with and getting those all set up. Blender models into a React 3 fiber scene. That's now. Oop. Yeah. Thanks. It's so satisfying seeing all this stuff drop. It would be nicer to like. It's hard to chain those together. Need a flip tables redeem. Yeah, no joke. No joke. I think the in Blender you can do in Blender you can do models and textures and all the typical like modeling kind of stuff you might do. Did it? Oh, you did stars twice or three times. Okay, I was wondering why it like reset like that. Yeah, right now you can only queue up one set of stars, and that's for everybody. So that's something I need to fix. I think I've got like 100 instances loaded, and we can only see like 10 or 15. So I just need to have some sort of like incrementing to drop multiple sets of instances. What was I going to say now? React 3 Fiber. Oh, Blender. Blender can also do animations and rigging and physics. I don't think we would have used the physics in there, at least for the specific use case, because we're doing the physics in WebGL. But we could potentially use the animations. And to your point about the table flip, it would be so much fun to have somebody walk up and flip a table and have the table do physics. I mean, we've got the chair ready. It's not gonna be that involved to make a table. That would be very awesome. Okay, so we got the external bin. Let's add the shell to the allow list. We just have all as true. I don't think I need that right now. So we're gonna go like this. We're gonna copy that up here. We're gonna get rid of those. Oh yeah, speaking of which, there's actually, if you do I keep getting distracted. I think you can do 3D a number. Oh shoot, what is it? Index colon a number, and then my text has changed. Yeah. Okay, so we got that configured. This is specifically just getting that binary running, which we're kind of gonna punt on that for the moment, since I do not care about that as much. We do need command, and there. Oh. So command sidecar. So I was expecting the new let command new sidecar. I was expecting to invoke this in Rust. So this is writing it out to async while some command event standard out. This is a little bit too much of a snippet. We might have to play around with that. We're definitely gonna have to enable process command API, I think. But like, I think we can just call it from JavaScript. I was not expecting to be able to do that. But I'm kind of okay with that, I think, for this use case. we need our app. So we've got our button, and that's already doing that PC communication. I think we'll just do another row. Do our import. We've got API ready. That's fine. We're gonna call this GraphGen. I wonder how the paths react to this. So if you got multiple paths, each with the same binary name, I wonder what that's gonna do. Like, do I need to have the full path in there? And then output. So this is calling command execute and then grabbing the output. So we're not going to do that yet. And we've got, like, we can do basically something like this, because when we do an on-click action can be async. So we're going to set up the command so it loads on mount. We're going to go ahead and just copy this. And I guess we say use state output. Set command output. And then we can do an async function in the same way as our greet function. Trigger command. We're just going to call it GraphGen. GraphGen. Just to match up with our binary name. I think that'll make it a little bit more extensible if we do other binaries that as we're playing around with it. Placeholder. We don't need an input, we just need the button. The button is going to be hooked up to trigger GraphGen. We don't have any input to it. Command. Invoke. And then this is going to be our GraphGen output, I guess. Now we'll have to see how the async stuff goes. I'm not sure if this is going to be. We want to be able to stream. That is by far and away the ideal here. Got it. So an invoke needs an object. Are we doing invoke? Oh, we're not actually doing invoke here. We need to do the command. And we're doing the command. So now we're just setting the output. I think we could just do that. And we might be able to merge them together to match. But let's go ahead and start this up again. And like I said before, we're getting the Vite and our Tauri build should go much quicker. I think as part of the code gen, it ends up recompiling some of the Tauri stuff. Not 100% certain on that, but and we do potentially need the dependency update here. I think some of that is handled by Tauri itself, and we don't need to always pay attention to updating that. But let us double check. By default, Tauri runs a production mode. Okay, so we did get the features shell sidecar. Is that so? There's the process command API as well. So there's the potential that we don't need to depend on this thing in version 1 features. Version 1 features. I'm assuming that we need to have both of those in there. New dependencies optimized. Optimized dependencies changed. Okay. There we go. There's the recompile. Okay. If I'm just changing like the main.rs, I think the recompile is going to happen faster. But considering I changed the cargo toml, I think that ends up busting more of the cache. So we'll give it a moment. So I don't think we actually need a function command here, but we do need to understand this. On the Rust code, import the command struct from the Tauri API process module. It would be nice to have more info there. Read events such as standard out, which we do want to do. So we're invoking it through the Rust side of things. I imagine we can have this after the builder. Be able to create my Sidecar binary command. So we effectively set up the command, and then we are able to execute it after it has been set up. And it's using async runtime. Is that Rust async? I don't know if that is. There's been a few iterations of how async works within Rust, and I'm not certain if this is the newer implementation. I'm thinking we probably need to put it in here like this. So our builder script runs, it sets up the whole app, and then we can do this. But I'm not certain. And what it's doing here is it's actually writing back to write to standard in. Write to standard in. Window message. I don't think it's actually standard in. I don't think that node is right. Because I think we're writing to standard out here. But we'll find out in a minute. So it finished recompiling. I did make this change in main.rs. So I think if we save this, it's going to just rebuild, part of it. There you go. Okay. One of the nice things with Rust is the error messages are very useful. So use of undeclared type command event, which makes sense because it says we need to import this command struct, which we did not. So use commands I get that syntax right? Gosh, it's been so long since I did. The amount of Rust that I write is not often enough to where I feel like I end up relearning a bunch of the syntax. Yeah, okay. So we did it backwards. Getting too JavaScripty here. Okay, so it's rebuilding. Yeah, it actually did help us out. Use, so I expected that. So it definitely was like, what are you trying to do here? Consider importing one of these items. So we also need command. And window, it looks like. Window is not found in the scope. So we do need window. So the event comes from the window. I think we're gonna have to like look up the async runtime a little bit here. Async. That is not helping us out at all, is it? Yeah, I haven't done the async stuff in Tauri yet. So, and I don't think we did anything here. So there's a setup where we can get web app. Where does window come from? Okay. I think maybe this is part of setup. Default. Oop, I just closed it. So if we move all of this up here, it's not gonna just be windows. That's gonna give us a window. The window when you first start a program is called main, and that gives us the main here. Method not found. It could be that a bunch of this too is also old code here that is not going to work anymore. Okay, async commands. We don't want an async command. So this does my custom command, some other function. So where's, okay, let result some other function. Okay. So it just has that one command. So you can also do multiple commands. Then you just give it in the array accessing managed state. So this is all commands. We might not have too much information on async in the docs. And I don't think our search there is really helping us out either. Tauri async runtime. So it is using Tokyo. How do we use it? was interesting that the link there took me to. I wonder why the search goes to an RC. That feels odd. Okay, that's pretty old. I don't think too many people are doing async stuff. We might need to try it with the commands first. Commands versus events. This is invoking things from the JavaScript. The lack of suspense is killing me. That's funny. And what they're doing here is they're doing it in the setup. And okay, so this is what we're doing. Oh, so there's an app.handle. I don't know why it's not formatting this. So that's there. No method named emit found in the struct. So they're using an app handle. Oh, okay. So this actually loops and it takes output from the async process and sends it to the web view. Okay. So what's happening is we are saying in the setup, we're creating a new command. Basically like registering a command to be something that can be invoked. And this is our child process. Oh, is it actually? Yeah, that feels weird. I don't understand what they're trying to do there. And what it's doing is when we get an event and receives the full of the standard out, it's writing that message back out to the window. And in our case, I don't think we need to do app.handle. So app dot, are you gonna help me out here? VS Code isn't gonna help me out here. App dot. Kind of surprised it's not actually. Is it not actually reformatting because there's errors? Oh, okay. We should just look at our error messages. Get window method is not found. There's a manager.get window though. I can give that a shot. An inner attribute is not permitted in this context. I don't know what it's trying to do here. Like what? I don't understand why it's kind of freaking out about that. App.manager is a private field. What? Okay, so let's look at the windowing. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to the Rust side of things, I think. Tauri Rust. Let's go to the root. And we want to find, so there's a window. Setup app, main window. That's what we're doing. App.getWindow main unwrap. Let's just take a bunch of this out for the moment. We're gonna just grab the window. Let's make sure we're at least like getting this working here. Could not compile. Unused imports, no method named getWindow found for immutable reference. So it is possible that it's an issue with Tauri builder defaults. Use Tauri manager. I bet you that's what we're missing here. So it's trying to let us know that, hey, app.manager is what you're supposed to, or is where this thing is. Unused variable. Okay. Hey, I think we're rolling now. Let's do the window. Let's pull in our sidecar, of which we have named it GraphGen. Gonna let that rebuild. I think there's gonna be a couple ways we can do the like invoking of this. Use of undeclared type. Okay. We can bring in that full thing. We are going to pull in the command event, but we need command right now, which is what the error is. And we do need the semicolon. Bunch of warnings, but that's not a big deal. It should still compile if there's warnings. It's saying that these variables are unused. It's fine. So now if we do this, it shouldn't do anything, which is kind of what we're expecting. Sidecar not configured under. So it seems that we can't just call it GraphGen. It seems instead that we need to refer to it by the path. Which that disconnect is a little bit unfortunate. I don't think it's the end of the world, but. So if we say bin slash, I did do that. I don't know if that's actually correct. Okay, it is potentially getting an object back. We're gonna output the output. See if there's anything of value there. So we are getting some output. Code is 1. Look at that. We're getting standard out of hello world. And then the reason we're getting the error here is because it's expecting it to be something like this. It would be really nice to stream this, so that is still something that we will want to try. Hello world, there we go. Okay. Just keep the state in here and you can right click and refresh. There we go. Cool. But what's interesting is we didn't actually wire up the main.rs at all. So by registering it there, I wonder if we even need to, like, we might be able to just straight up invoke it from the front end, which is kind of nifty actually. I think that's going to be more of a run it and get a full response. It's not going to be something that we can use for like a server. I think if we want to do streaming, that's going to be a whole other process. But it seems, and that's actually why there's two. I think that's something that we probably should clarify in our docs here. Let's go back to that sidecar here. So we have a couple of things going on. We need to basically register. We need to let it know that it needs to pull in an external binary. Then we need to add it to the allow list so it gets past permissions. This is basically just so somebody can create a local binary. We have two options. We can either run it with JavaScript directly, and it seems to be that we're going to, with this expectation, have a command that runs to completion. So I don't know what'll happen if it just hangs. The other option is to run it in Rust. Got it. So this would be straight up not expecting any responses or anything from the front end. This is just, hey, run the sidecar. Okay. So we do need to enable the process command API. And in this case, JavaScript expects the, where is it? The shell sidecar, I guess. I presume that's all it needs. So, trigger GraphGen. I think that's working. I think it's working as expected here. You can actually do this. That should work just as fine for now. I think we're actually going to do something like this, where we say code standard out, standard error. Guess I don't really need that. We are getting some command stuff in here. So what we're going to do is a trim, because we are getting a new line in there. I'm assuming that's what that difference is there. Code. Oh, maybe it's just a paragraph. Interesting. Code. Standard out. Standard error. Yeah, okay. Just the spacing a little bit odd there. I mean, that's not a big deal. So that's running it to completion. If we have the case where we want to stream, that's going to be a whole different situation, I think. We can try hooking it up for this binary. I don't think it's actually going to give us any different type of response, but we should be able to see the same thing. I think I still do want it through a command. So we want to use this invoke. Now we're going to be invoking Here, we'll say execute GraphGen, I guess. And then we can say start GraphGen. So the start GraphGen is going to be I don't really have any input, so I just need to invoke it. I think I could just do invoke. Set create message. So we're gonna just add another state in here. We're starting to get a little bit of a overlap. GraphGen stream, I suppose. I'm not sure how the stream's gonna work. If we get multiple entries, this might not work. So we might end up needing to figure out a different binary. But that might end up being another stream. We can, at work, we've been experimenting with Dino, and particularly the Dino compile to create a binary. And I think that potentially gives us the option where we can have, if we pull in Dino here, we're getting a lot of languages, but we can have Dino create a sidecar that covers all of the operating systems, and we can have both a server and we can have just like a hello world console.log type of situation. So set command stream. This feels funny. Well, we'll have to. I think we'll have to play around with this more. But this doesn't feel like it's gonna scale. Which is fine as long as we are aware of what we're doing, I think. Okay, so let's just make sure that we didn't break anything. We're gonna go ahead and refresh. Hopefully. GraphGen output is still valid. GraphGen output via the set command output. It should be a string, so we should be able to. It's not a string anymore. So it needs to be. We're gonna say -1 code, so that would be like not run yet, basically. Standard out and standard error. So now when we invoke it, it'll update it. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Let's do another. Do like a HR or something here. It's fine. I'm not particularly. Ooh boy. I'm not particularly keen on making this look amazing. We're kind of focusing on functionality right now. So rather than invoke, let's say start. Server. We're gonna call this just hello world, even though we're calling it GraphGen on the back. And now we got to do this. So for our command, I think this is where we fall back to this post that Rob Donnelly. A6 FPGA. I think this is still potentially an older version of Tauri. Maybe not. Looks like view unstable at least. And what they're doing is they have a custom, or they have an async function here that is processing the output and sending it. It uses a re-export, so it doesn't re-export everything we need. Interesting. Possible that has changed. You can get by with only async Tauri commands if JavaScript initiates all the communication, which should happen. So I don't think we're going to need Tauri events. Request responses are 1-to-1 or 1-to-none. Yeah, and see, so this is sort of the other. There's the initiation of communication. So if you click a button on the front end, that's going to be the thing that triggers all of this to happen. You can also have the situation where when you start the app, maybe you just want to by default start a couple of these things. So if you've got 3 servers that are supposed to start up when the app starts, that's likely going to be triggered on startup via Rust. And I think that's where this becomes more important. So on the JavaScript side of things, they are doing some log output and then an invoke. I feel like there's weird random numbers here, but output, where's their listen? So wait for listen and inputs. Okay. So they're using view. I mean, it's clear via the logo here, but this syntax is view. Hence their note about suspense. So they added suspense in there to help deal with some of this async considerations. So they're doing a setup app.handle, and they're doing a spawn, and basically the spawn is saying, hey, run this thing on this side. And it's receiving from rs2.js, which is, so this sends a message from Rust to JavaScript. I don't know that we would actually even need that. Well, yeah, I guess. I wonder if we could just like invoke the command and it would start piping it back. So this is the opposite direction, which we have. Tauri command that is the invoking this function. Info. Okay, if we make our async calls inside of Tauri, then Tauri can own and manage the Tokio runtime. And this makes sense. So like it's going to be dependent on where you're doing your Tokio. Into the async process. So send a Rust, and then we get, oh, that's gonna, wait, we send C, so it's going to Rust and then coming right back. That's a little bit confusing here. So you click send a Rust, it goes to Rust, and then it comes back, or both. But the events are events happening in Rust. So when a Rust thing happens, it can trigger an event that then the JavaScript side of things picks up. I guess we do kind of want that. The reason being that if we start up the server, we want to pipe events back. They can be separate things, like we can invoke a server and start it up via a button, but also we want to send that output back regardless of how it's invoked. So this is sort of the things that we're doing here. Generate handler. So this is taking the command. Message state. Yeah. So it's making a new channel. What's MSMP? Tokyo. Okay, so that's a Tokyo thing. So it's making a Tokyo channel and then handing that off to Tauri effectively. I mean, I think this is sort of in the vein of what we're thinking about. But I don't know that we actually need that. If we look specifically at this case, what we're doing here is we're creating. I'm actually a little bit curious. Can we move this command out? /bin/GraphGen. So it's complaining about those not being used, which makes sense. The window, I think the window here makes sense. Oh, failed to spawn sidecar. Okay. So we might need that sidecar in the setup. So if we grab our window and we set up the sidecar, that sidecar should also be the same file path reference. And the Tauri async runtime. Let's see. Does this post have any? Are they using async runtime? So as part of the app handle, it's specifically this window.emit. I think that's giving us issues here. Oh, failed to spawn sidecar. The file name, directory, or volume label syntax is incorrect. Okay. To confirm, we do have shell sidecar listed in our features. We have a reference to the sidecar. We are within a separate folder, so it may actually be a relative thing. When we were referring to it in the app, we went up a folder level and into bin and GraphGen. This is nested within src Tauri, which is kind of funky. But we need to go up 2 levels. cat came to say hi. Coming up? Come on. It's probably gonna say hi. I've got noise canceling in the headphones, so I actually can't hear very well. All right. Still incorrect. Interesting. So my sidecar. I'm not sure. Yeah, the sorry. The pathing stuff is not particularly clear. Now is that gonna work? No. Failed to spawn sidecar. The file name, directory name, or volume label syntax is incorrect. So it seems like Tauri comp for saying. So this is. The example only uses the register name. Yeah, but we don't actually. Are you thinking it's just GraphGen? It definitely feels odd that it just would strip the paths here, but also when you're using it in the command downstream. Where did we use it? We used it right here, yeah. So we're using the path there. Yeah. That is a bit confusing if that is the case. Like, there's no actual identifier that says that it's just GraphGen, because, I mean, it can make an assumption that it's just the file name. But what if you have a bin slash CLI1 slash CLI? Start it up. Curious. So that one's still. Oh. State is shared between them right now. Yeah, it does feel different. That'll be different from the JS side. I imagine part of it is like, it's not common that you would, like, you're probably picking one or the other. I would presume that there's less of a use case to do it on both ends. Because if we're doing it in the backend because we want to handle streaming and whatnot, we're probably invoking it via command. Kick off the thing and then start streaming the events. Yeah. And I mean, this is part of the reason. Part of the reason I'm going through some of this is it's nice to come at it with, like, I haven't looked at it. What's the word I'm looking for? Untrained? No. Fresh. It's nice to come at it with a fresh pair of eyes to kind of see where the gaps are. It's hard to write documentation. It's hard to write good documentation, let alone just, documentation at all. Particularly in Tauri, because we're trying to target so many different type of folk that are coming in and working with this, to be able to give enough background and context to a JavaScript dev and a Rust dev, and maybe somebody's coming in with a Java background and they want to try out Rust, but they don't want to do, they want to be able to use some of the web framework abilities. It's not easy. But yeah, that is definitely odd. That is I mean, if you're bundling a lot of binaries, I mean, I guess if you have a binary, you tend to name the binary the actual name of the function because it's something that you're going to drop in like, on your path via user bin or what have you. So you can't do something like CLI because it's too generic. So I guess I wonder if, for curiosity's sake, if we go in here, I kind of assumed it would be that. I don't know that we actually tried it just calling it graph in here. So maybe that does work, and we just happen to run into a situation where both cases work. Hi, you're back. Coming up again? Come on. Yeah, no objectives here. No objections here. All right. PD distracted me. Let's see. Invoke. No, don't eat the mic. Sidecar not configured. Yeah, that's weird. So this needs the path. It seems like this path needs a match where you have it in the Tauri conf. But also, like, what's this path relative to? Is it relative to the configuration? I'm assuming so. A little bit awkward. Okay, let's see if we get this async thing working with in here. It's not complaining at us anymore, so I'm assuming that we're good with this. And with this async runtime. We are doing things here. Spawn move. So when an event comes in, it receives an event. There's no like. Is it gonna like smush these together? Like if you have multiple commands. Music stop? Wow, we burned through our music already. Okay. Let's do a little bit of synthwave. Yeah. Can you even hear the music? Is it a bit quiet? Okay. That's how it's mapping it to it. So we've got the child and whatever RX is. Is Rust Analyzer like not working? I feel like it's both Flowistry and Rust Analyzer are not. Yeah, cannot run because your project failed to build. Yeah, there's some cogen stuff that is giving it trouble. Music is working? Okay. It's hard to tell like what. I try to keep it at around 40, 35, 40 dB. So sort of background. So is this actually invoking the command? I mean, I'd like to invoke it via, like when you click the button, I want it to start. I want that to be the thing that triggers it to start. But this seems like this is actually triggering it to start. It is doing a spawn, and it's so like this is within the setup. So I think we do need access. Well, no, we don't need access to the window because the window is just emitting it back. So we might be able to just chuck this right in the command. Let's give that a shot. We're gonna have a new command called start graph gen. We're just gonna move all of this. I don't think I need the window. We should be able to get rid of this setup. So this command is going to run and it's going to start streaming. This might be where we need to start hooking into the events. Because I don't know how the scoping is going to work here. If we've got, yeah, it's going to not be happy with me. I'm actually going to turn off flow history as well. Flow history, because I don't think any of these are working. Disable. When we run this, we're spawning off. Is it a thread? Does Tokyo use threads? So we're spawning off of this to keep doing the thing, and then we have a return. We could probably just write, and it's writing it to that specific window. I wonder if that shows up in the console.log. It's definitely like this feels like it should be copied and pasted right in the setup, but there's no indication. Oh, here. We do have an example. Nice. Okay. This is going to be helpful. It isn't set up. Okay. And there is a Tauri API manager. So yeah, let's give that a shot first. Actually, I want to see how this is working compared to. Guess we gotta grab the whole setup, eh? I want to see how this is gonna work compared to how I'm thinking I want to have it implemented. I think what this is gonna happen here is we're gonna get a new sidecar called GraphGen, and it's going to do all this stuff. And that's a little bit different. But basically, it's going to start emitting messages, and I want to see where those messages are actually emitted. Unexpected close. Run and expect. I have it all. I didn't comment out these lines. Command event, and manager. Grab that. Oop. I hit save again. The problem with it, like recompiling every time I hit save, is that anytime I touch the IDE and hit save, oh, this is my window. There we go. Okay. We're gonna open up the inspector, and this did already happen within the setup. So I don't know. Did it spit it out anywhere? Like, it takes long enough to start it up that it's hard to open up the console fast enough to actually see it. Message from Rust. Like, where are we supposed to see that? If I refresh. Yeah, it's not clear where that shows up. Okay. So it's using package. Can I just keep this, is this inspect going to stay open? I think that actually gets closed too. We might need to have, yeah. Dev tools? I think I got a separate Edge dev tools. As far as you understand it, message from Rust is piped into the standard in of GraphGen. Yep, that makes sense. Because it's writing it to that child. But where would this show up then? Emit message. That window should go to our main window, right? It's been a while since I used this, so this might not actually work. Windows device portal. Network location? I think it should be listed as local. This might not work. I think though, honestly, the last I used the Edge DevTools was a year ago, maybe. Most likely, the emitted standard out of GraphGen is transported to the window and can be retrieved via some Tauri events API. I can always just do this too while I'm reading. Yeah, I think you're right. Because there is the window emit. Emit. So this is the event. On the JavaScript side of things, we can emit an event, and then there's just the events floating around. And I think you can pick up on the events either on the Rust side or on the JavaScript side. It's transported there via post message. I think you're on the right track with the events, from what I recall. So I don't know why I would need to write it back, but I do think I want to emit it to the window. Maybe you're just guessing. I feel that. That's part of this, right? We're just muddling our way through until we figure it out. I don't think I want it here then. I want to be able to invoke this command from. That's confusing. I want to be able to invoke the sidecar via a command, a Tauri command. So like I want to be able to do that, but how am I gonna excuse me, how am I gonna get access to that window object? I wonder if the command has some of that built in. whoop, come on. Let's look at the window. No. Yes. Window? Nope, not that window. Let's look at the commands. Let's see what we have access to with the commands. Shall we just, what's process? Performs operations in the current process. Exit. Oh, oh, that's kind of nice. I didn't realize we had added that. Mux. Global shortcuts, HTTP. Tauri, invoke your custom commands. Okay. So this actually pulls all the custom commands. Convert a device file path to a URL that can be loaded by the web view. Invoke sends a message to the backend. Transform callback transforms a callback function to a string identifier that can be passed to the backend. Ooh, that's a lot of words that I understand separately, but not all together. Like I don't know when you'd actually use this. We've seen a few instances of invoke, and we've got that working. I guess we want to look at the Rust side really, which means we need to go here. And where would the Tauri commands be? Just try to register an addEventListener on the message event on the window object of the spawning the process via command, however, is of course another problem. Yeah. So as far as the events go, I think you're right. I think doing that would make this work, but this isn't particularly what I'm looking for. If this is basically when you start the app, it will run the command and start piping that output to the front end. I believe you're correct about that, and I believe if we did, basically what you're saying right here. Does it actually cut it off? No, it does show the full. Nice. If we hook up the events API on the JavaScript side, we can start receiving those messages. Which I think would work, and I think we still do want to hook the events API up, but I don't think we want to invoke it in this way. Of which, if we want to invoke it via the button, I believe we still need the window to be able to emit an event. Because I think what we can do when we hit the button, we can spawn, and we'd basically be returning okay. So we'd spawn off this thread to keep doing its thing, run the sidecar. I'm not sure how we'd be able to like stop it, but that's a whole separate issue. And I gotta imagine that the sidecar, there's some expectation that we can run it as like a daemon and have it continually running. So I think if we move this into a command, we'll still be spawning off a thing, but we just need to make sure that we have access to the window, because I think that's going to complicate things if we don't. I think we do. I think there's some context of what window invoked the command. But the question is finding it. So let's see. We want to I don't know where the commands are in here. Invoke command. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. So a command is a macro. The macros generate a whole bunch of code, and I think we're gonna have a hard time like walking back through to figure it out. Accessing the window in commands. Let's see what you got there. Copy. Paste. App handle. I don't think it actually went to the window. Oh, here, it's right there. Window. Ah, it is passed. Perfect. I think we could have found it in the Rust docs. But I haven't figured out how to like if I'm writing, there's just enough going on that it's hard to figure out like where to look for stuff in here. Like I know what I'm looking for and like what to search for, but finding this in that, I haven't figured it out myself at least. Okay, so thank you for your helpful link there. That gives us access to the window object. And we will pull some of this over. I don't care about the name. Can access the window. Okay, so it's not, for a minute there I thought it was the window object from the web view that I was just piping through. So like that's a little bit odd, I feel like. I feel like you could accidentally blitz this on the JavaScript side. Like if you just name an export window, you're gonna get a different window, which is just gonna, I can't imagine that's gonna play nicely. So go ahead and just print. We'll grab this. You Googled it. Yeah. And that's unfortunate if that's the situation where when looking for this stuff, you end up just falling back to Google. Ideally, the search within the docs site or docs.rs would be sufficient, but yeah. Why is that formatting weird? Like what? Is Rust Analyzer just coughing that much that it can't help me out? Where is Rust Analyzer? Rust Analyzer. Oh, okay. The buttons were different and I was confused why. I don't know why it's not formatting. Format? What's the deal? I want you to make my code pretty. Why aren't you making it pretty? I mean, we got everything closing fine, I think. I suppose I should look at these. Variable does not need to be mutable. Key. These are all warnings I would have expected it to. Cannot compile it. Oh, did I get rid of those? I got rid of those. Start graph term is never used. That's fine. Convert the identifier to a snake case. Fair. None of that should actually prevent the build from running though. Okay, you told me not to make it mutable. I mean, I don't think I actually need the child there. I'm gonna just get rid of it. of which I think I can then do that. Underscore in Rust should mark it and tell Rust that we understand it's a variable, but we're not using it. We're just chucking it basically. I mean, I realize it's not used. Variable does not need to be mutable. Did you run on old code? Okay. I guess. No. It's not mutable. New sidecar. Oh. So this is the other thing. We need to get rid of that. Okay. We're still choking on this and that. Do we actually pass anything to passing arguments? Returning data. Async commands. Okay, so they do use a separate thread for the async commands. And I don't know if it never returns, is that going to give us issues as well? Problem is we don't have a good example of that right now. Still don't know why this is not formatting. Format doc. Weird. So we should be getting an event. Emit message. We might be able to hook up the front end to then basically handle that. I think what we'll do is, I suspect the React side of things is going to get a little bit involved if we want to handle that nicely. So for sake of time, I think we're just going to log it out. We need, where did that go? Here. So got that window. We should be getting a print when that's invoked. So let's go ahead and add the button to invoke it so we can see some output there. Is it an app? Yep. So start GraphGen server. We are doing execute GraphGen, which is not used anymore. We need to do start. And we have named it start GraphGen. So we're going to await invoking start GraphGen, and then it's going to set the command stream. So I don't think that's actually going to work. Because I think the overall intention here is that it never returns. Because it's just going to start running. So I'm not sure how to deal with that. So we got a window over here. Those are still overlapping. I'm going to remove the GraphGen output just because it's sort of confusing, because that's not representative of what's happening anymore. So if we do start, okay, now we're getting the window. If you see down in the bottom left there in our terminal. So we're getting the print. which means we're here. So we should be getting an emit, and it should theoretically be running. So if we hook up the events, which is also a guide, we should be able to get an event. Global events. So we can await, listen. We can do Windows specific events. This is basically what we're doing right now. They're using like the standard threads rather than the Tokyo async. And this is doing events as part of this setup. And it's also listening just for all of global listen event using the ID returned. Interesting. So in Tauri, or through the Tauri API on the web view, we can emit Oh, you can create a new window directly. Oh, that's cool. That was a big thing that, like, when we were first, I guess, pre-1 a bunch of these APIs, you had to do through the Rust side. But we've effectively added helpers to where we can call these types of things through the JavaScript side of things, and it's being all handled on the Rust side of things. So I guess we just kind of want to listen, right? Event.event is the event name. Useful if you want to use a single callback function for multiple event types. Okay. And event.payload is the payload object. So we're going to have to handle that. But I think we can potentially just log stuff out to the console and be done with it. So we're pulling in the Tauri API right now. So let's do the event. I'm going to go ahead and move this up here. So now we have listen. We need await.listen. This is emitting the click event with the payload. I don't know if we need to. This is an event listener. I'm trying to do. Trying to do the least amount of code here to just to listen to the event to be done with it. But I don't know what. You need to call unlisten if your handler goes out of scope. It's fine. We might be able to throw it in like a use effect. Import listen from that. I don't want to specifically listen for the error event though. What did we call our event? Emit message. So we'll just listen to message. I have no idea if this is actually going to work the way I'm expecting it to, but. Let's open up all the things, and we'll click the button. So we should be invoking the command. The command should be spawning off a command, a shell command to run this, of which it's setting the message to be the standard out. There we go. I don't know, like our cleanup and whatnot might not actually be working well. It's like every time we click this button, we're spawning off a new async process. Yeah, so I mean, this happens to finish, so it's less of an issue because we're invoking the command, it's returning the standard out, and we're done with it. While some await if command standard align. I think this is, I mean, this is a while statement, which I think is going to just keep returning events. So I don't know like what the logic is here to shut this down. So if we do something that's long running, I don't know if it's actually going to shut down how we're expecting it to. Can we do... What would be a good way to test this? I don't want to bundle another binary in there. I mean, I guess I can. That might be a next time thing. I mean, I think it's working. I think it's doing pretty close to what we're hoping to do. I suspect some of the new features have made this post less, the things they're doing here less necessary. Unless I'm missing something, I don't think we have to have a whole separate Tokyo runtime. I mean, they are doing a little bit more involved things here, so potentially we run into that if we build this up, but we should be able to spawn off the same thing. I don't know how we receive an event to shut it down. That's the question. But we're getting the event, we're getting the payload and ID from this window. That's cool. So if we have a bunch of windows, all of them can kind of be listening to the different events, and we can kind of pass information between all the windows. I think next time, we'll pick this up next time. I think we can do. What do we do next time? I think we get potentially a small Dino server running, like an HTTP thing. We get that running. We wire that up as another binary, and then we will have two binaries, one of which executes and runs the completion quickly. There might be something worth doing for a longer running, something that takes longer to run but still is intended to run completion, and then a daemon. You weren't there at the start of the stream, therefore I don't know if you created the binary returning hello world. Yes, I didn't actually create the binary on the stream, but another project we were working on, we are working on using and testing the compile step out of Dino to create binaries that you can run. And as part of that process, we wanted to do some code signing. Some of that is needed, some of it is potentially not needed. If you curl a binary in Mac, it does not go through the gatekeepers, so Mac is just okay with it, and you don't actually need a code signed. But on Apple Silicon, you do need it signed. An ad hoc signature is okay though. So as part of playing around with that and testing that, we created a binary out of Dino that just logs out hello world as part of the test. So we've got this binary that's I grabbed here and I just pulled in, and then we're using it on the side. And yes, you could change it to take input from standard in and output to standard out. I think if we would yeah, Mac. I mean, honestly, every operating system is special. I can appreciate generally what Apple is doing with the privacy. Well, it's not really privacy, but it's more security implications, I guess. Other kitties here. That's not the cuddly one though. I think it's good long term to push towards having our code signed. That is, at least as of right now, the best way to confirm that what I'm downloading is what I'm going to end up receiving. So governments and all that stuff. Governments, DNS, there's so many different layers here that could be like man in the middle sort of situation that having your code signed is not a bad thing. It's a good confirmation that what I'm downloading is what I'm actually expecting to be downloading. So, but it's complicated, and you try to sign something, and technically signing it and then attaching that signature to the thing is changing it. So it's not an easy thing to solve, and there's many ways you can create binaries and apps and whatnot. So getting it working for your unique situation is not easy. As long as Gatekeeper can be disabled by the user, you agree. Yeah. And that's why I suspect that for this case, I don't think curl ignoring Gatekeeper is an oversight. Like I'd fully expect that they're aware of that. And I don't think it's something that they're like deeply intending to fix. Because at some point when you're working on the code, your own code by yourself, and you want to be able to test it, like you kind of have to be able to run it. And if you're forced to have to code sign it every time, yeah. So trade-offs, like everything, there's trade-offs. Anyways, the reason we were hi buddy, do you want to just come up? I don't know if you can see it, but he's putting his paw on my shoulder so I pet him. This is not the cuddly one. Can you say hi? Nope, nothing. This one is the not very cuddly one, and not very talkative one either. The other kitty is more talkative. So I appreciate what they're doing. I understand kind of what they're getting towards, but in all of that process, it's not easy. So we're doing a lot of experimenting to make sure we were getting it working, and we could run it through CI and just set it up and forget about it, hopefully. So we got the binary from there. But I do want to test a longer running binary to where you could use a Tauri app as a way to start or invoke like local dev servers. We're doing at my work, we're doing a couple different setups to where the expectation is we can start up local servers that are act like services or act like either like public services that you can pay for, like Osseo or something, or even your own service. And being able to start up those and communicate over HTTP just as you would normally from an app, it gets you closer to how things are going to be operating as you push towards production. And anytime you're like patching your functions or doing mocks or anything like that, your code is kind of testing that the mocks are working. But if something changes upstream and your mocks don't match what's actually happening upstream, it's not going to be caught by your tests anymore. And like that's the use case that's hard to get right, and it's painful that it isn't right. Because if in a serial library something I'm using changes, I want to be able to upgrade it and have a good indication on if it's going to work with just a, like 5-minute upgrade, see if all my tests pass. That's what I want to know is like having that information is super valuable, and it's useful to make decisions based off of that. But if you have to be dependent on all these mocks and all of your own code that is tied to a specific version of a thing or patched functions to get this testing to work, you're testing your own code, and you're testing that the inputs you're expecting are what you're saying they're going to be, and you're testing your code based on those inputs. But if the inputs change, then you need to keep making sure that that's up to date. And then the mocks aren't terribly portable either. So long story short, we want to be able to potentially have an app where we can see all of these different services or demo whatever things that are running. We can open up the app, click a couple buttons, and turn things on. And ideally turn things on with options. We could also do that through the browser and have a, especially in like dev mode, that would be nice, where you can you kind of want to have more flexibility there. So you can access it just through a browser. But the further you get downstream from the actual project, like if you have a QA team and you have a whole bunch of services that are talking to services that are talking to services, at some point the QA team's not going to be able to test all of those. You're going to start hitting dead ends. So having something that anybody can run and have what seems like the full set of services and the full gateway or whatever you're doing, I think it's kind of cool. But that means that we need to make binaries of things and be able to ship code bundled in a way that isn't going to break or doesn't require a whole bunch of setup. And that's complicated, especially in JavaScript world. I think that's less of an issue or less of an expectation in Node, which is why we've been playing around with Dino. But hard things to solve. I think we pretty much have the sidecar working though, and we can access it. We can get responses. I think next time we play around a little bit more with the event API and daemons, I guess. Start up a longer running server, like a GraphQL server or something like that, and have it to be where we can click a button, it starts up, we get the output there, and then we can click a button to kill it or stop it. Ideally, a graceful shutdown. It would, I mean, we can do a thing where we, like kill -f kind of situation. But it would be nice to give it like an actual like graceful shutdown event. Particularly for situations where it's like hitting a database. If you kill it in the middle of doing that, things can get kind of weird. So having that graceful shutdown is nice. Yeah. So next week, we'll pick it up again next week and keep working with Tauri. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Have a good weekend. Yeah. See you next time. Bye.